it's 6 cents flat, which is kind of inconvenient. So we can either choose to bring the pitch up slightly, or we can tune it, all the way up, or we can tune it down to F. Right? Very wonderful and forgiving thing about using a machine to remove is that it gets hot. It makes the wood hot, and when the wood is hot, it has less strength. So therefore, once this cools down, like you can over-tune by accident, and then cool it down or set it aside and find that in fact it is still slightly sharp, and you still can take some pitch off of it. So to know where to drill the holes, to suspend the thing, we want to drill the holes right at the node point for the fundamental, because that's the place where the wood moves the very least, right? So a lot of people recommend using salt, but usually the woods are darker. I find this works just fine. So you see that sawdust organizing itself pretty well. And, okay, so I'm relatively satisfied that that's the place. So I'll make a little mark, and I'll put that mark just on one side and use the. And I'm just sort of guessing the center of the mass of that shape there. It's a little bit unruly. Same thing for the other side. And based on just inaccuracies of how I've sanded and density changes in the wood and blah blah, theoretically you should be able to come up with that mathematically, but it's never quite what you think it's going to be. So there that one is. It's ready to be drilled. And then of course once you drill it, you want to do another fine tune. I'll go ahead and drill the holes for this, which generally should be pretty much in the middle, and could definitely be a lot more precisely done than what I'm going to do now. But as I said, this is a marimba made out of a 2x4.
You might want to explain to people what the nodes are. Maybe not everybody knows what that means.
Lymph nodes?
Lymph nodes, that's a whole nother workshop.
Don't drill your lymph nodes.
So, nodes are simply, like, when you're doing this, the way that rope naturally, there are places in the rope that kind of stay still. Same thing for any oscillating thing. Mm-hmm. This is the pivot point. So you deform, you hit the wood, you deform it, and it goes down while the sides go up, so it actually pivots on those spots. I was walking around the university today and I found these Scotch-Brite pads, a whole box. So, and I was actually on the prowl for little pads to put. So I always cut something, felt, tube socks, whatever, to isolate each resonating bar from the next. So since these are a little thin, I do that, and then poke a little hole in the middle. You've probably noticed underneath instruments like this, they're either traditionally gourds, but in the contemporary Western versions, it's always tubes. It's usually tubes, right? And there's all sorts of calculations or formulas by which you can calculate the length of that tube. My favorite way to do it, however, is to set the bar up and play it while I change the length of a tube underneath it, and it's incredible how as soon as you get that length right, it doubles in volume easily. And the reason is because if the tube is closed at the end, you've found exactly a quarter of a wavelength of the vibrating frequency of the fundamental tone. You can also, with those tubes, emphasize another overtone. And you can, if you have a long tube, you can just sit there and play with, and bring out different sounds. But basically, what happens is that in that tube is that the wave goes down, bounces off the floor, and reinforces itself on the way back up. So it becomes a reinforcing wave as opposed to a destructive wave or whatever. Yeah. So does anybody? Do y'all feel like you could kind of do some of this stuff?
I have a question. Like, how would I track down a tuner like that?
Oh yeah.
Or what's the compromise?
They're available on eBay.
Well, that was my thought. Was
Yeah.
find it online for cheap.
They're actually fairly expensive.
That's what. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheap being like more than I can spend. So.
Yeah.
What's the cheap version?
The cheap version is just a guitar tuner.
Okay.
Or, if you have a good ear, you just have an instrument there that you know is in tune. A piano is great,
Okay.
and ultimately it has to sound. The music has to sound good to ears, not to machines.
Right.
So, if you have a quote unquote good ear, then you will be able to decide for yourself
Cool.
what the pitch is. And as I say, I've tuned these with out of reach of any instrument for reference or any tuner, and I don't have any kind of perfect pitch, and made instruments that were completely exciting to play. And